What is up, duelists? Arts and Crafts here. Excited to kick off my coverage here of Season 7 of the GOAT format. War League. As many of you know, the league is in full swing right now. We are in the middle of Week 3, so a little bit late here to be doing some Week 1 coverage. But bear with me. I think your patience will be rewarded because we've been cooking up some really cool content that I'm excited to release in the next coming days, so keep an eye out on your favorite GOAT format YouTube channels for that. No spoilers, though. But of course, want to continue doing some content here on my own personal channel as well. So here in week 1 of the War League, I wanted to focus on our defending champs, give us a little bit of a narrative there. So as many of you know, our Season 6 champions were the Bones Generation, and they've actually split their organization into 2 sister teams. We've got the 13th Grave up in the Blue Conference, and then Skull Servants here down in the Red Conference. So took that championship roster, split it half and half into each of these orgs, and picked up some other players from other now defunct teams, etc., to fill out those remaining spots. For today's feature match, we're going to be looking at the Skull Servants. Here, their Week 1 matchup was up against Team Canada, formerly known as the Chaos Kings, I believe. They are a team of War League veterans, but did sit out Season 6, so this is their re-debut into the league, if you will. But like I mentioned, veteran team, they were a playoff team before they took a break, so definitely some very solid duelists, and should be a good one here against our pseudo-defending champions. So for our Week 1 feature match, from Team Canada, I wanted to look at ptranxp here, playing up against Duelista DEX, aka Vive Cristo here, on Skull Servants. So Ptran, just looking at my stats from my fantasy video, they have a 48% all-time win rate in the War League regular season across 21 matches. So as mentioned, definitely a veteran, very respectable win rate, especially in a league of this caliber, so can hold their own against the top duelists. I'm excited to see what they might be bringing here because I'm, honestly not super familiar with this player nor this org, as someone newer to the scene myself. In the blue corner, though, as mentioned, from the Skull Servants side, we've got Duelista DEX, who was one of the top duelists in the league last season, helping the Bomb Squad team to a semifinal finish with their 7-5 record. However, this season, taking their talents over to the defending champions, beefing up that roster a little bit. Definitely a solid acquisition there for the Skull Servants. Duelista, primarily known as a warrior player, but definitely can play turbo, can play chaos control, can play a lot of things. So interested to see what they choose to bring here in week 1. Let's hop right into it, though. Looks like Ptran is going to win that RPS. And pretty solid opening hand. We've got Pot of Greed, Premature Burial, Reinforcement of the Army, Trap Dust Shoot, Sakuretsu Armor, and a Mystical Space Typhoon. Alright, so likely a warrior list here with that main deck Rhoda, the main deck Saku, main deck Premature. Let's fire off this Pot of Greed, see what we draw into. We draw into Donzalug and Mystic Swordsman. Alright, neither are the strongest turn 1 summons. So part of me wants to just like Rhoda for DD Warrior Lady or something. But I guess you do have protection for these monsters. So honestly, I could just see like set Dust Shoot, set Saku or MST pass. You could also be a little bit... You could go summon Donzalug, though, just to get it on the board. You have the Saku to protect it. And then next turn, if your opponent like sets a monster, you can go Mystic Swordsman, clear it out. Donzalug gets in. That could be a play. Depends on how risky you want to be here as Ptran. We're going to go set the Donzalug. Alright. So setting monsters game 1 as warrior is often not advisable because it does give your opponent targets for the Noblemans of Crossout that they're most likely main decking. However, going for a little bit of a tricky play here, like I mentioned, there's value into just having the Donzalug on the board right now. If the opponent goes summons attacks, you Saku it, and then the Don can get in and rip a card out. If they go set a monster, you have the Mystic Swordsman to deal with it, get in with the Don, rip a card out. So I do like playing the Don here. Setting it might come back to bite them if Duelista open to knock, but we'll see. And yeah, setting the Saku to protect it, as well as that Trap Dust Shoot. So Ptran will be able to get a little bit of value off of this Trap Dust Shoot, see what Duelista is playing, and it looks like we have ourselves a good old-fashioned Warrior Mirror here. Hope you guys are ready for an absolute slobber knocker. Kaiku, the only target in the hand, so that'll get sent back, but honestly, pretty similar hand overall. Rhoda, some back row, and a Pot of Greed. So El Duelista, after this Kaiku gets sent back, likely to just fire off this pot, recuperate some of that card advantage. And now let's see what the play is. Did they draw into a normal summon? Do they want to go for that Rhoda? They're going to go Rhoda for Mystic Swordsman level 2, so notably the riskier of the two options if you want to deal with this set monster between Mystic Swordsman and Exiled Force. And El Duelista about to get punished for this by running into the Sakuretsu armor, leaving this Donzalug on the board, right? Now, I think they probably felt a little bit safer about this because if your opponent opens like T-set pass, essentially, you're probably not expecting them to be on Warrior, which is one of the few decks in the format that does main deck Sakus, I guess. So thinking that the Mystic Swordsman, like if you're just playing against Turbo, this is much more likely to connect because there are less battle traps to worry about, but is going to get punished from this Saku here. Could have gone for the Exile just to pop it. Safer option, of course. In phase 2, we're going to set 5 pass. All right, so we knew the Solemn was in hand. We know one of the back row is Dust Tornado, one is Call of the Haunted, and I guess Pot of Greed drew into 2 other back row. So interesting angle of attack here for Ptran, knowing that they're going to have to play through a lot of spells and traps. Draws Kaiku for a turn, though. That's a pretty nice card, especially when you know your opponent has Call of the Haunted in the back row to start banishing their grave. Now, we didn't see Torrential or Mirror Force from the Dust Shoot, but that doesn't mean El Duelista couldn't have drawn into one off of that Pot of Greed. So, interested to see how Ptran chooses to play around those potential sweepers. Donzalug here, of course, because El Duelista set their whole hand, isn't going to be super valuable, obviously. No cards to rip out. See what the option here, though. We're just going to go Kaiku, try and beat in. That seems fair. Going to run into a Saku, though, so one of the 2 cards drawn off of pot was that Saku. Is going to trade, but Ptran does have this premature burial, it waiting in the wings if they want to bring the Kaiku back in the future. And then you probably just set the MST pass here is my guess. And that's what they're going to do. Into known Dust Tornado, but interestingly, Ptran is going to opt not to use it. I guess there's a little bit of a mind game there, where Ptran is setting something into known Dust Tornado, so El Duelista is less likely to want to use it, right? Just some interesting mind games there, but the MST will survive. El Duelista is going to go for Call of the Haunted, really trying to deal with this set monster. Now, notably, it didn't flip last turn, so I wonder how much you care about dealing with it, but maybe you just have no other plays here, right? Especially if you didn't draw a monster for turn or anything. And Kaiku, okay, so Kaiku was the draw for turn. So the idea was now you have the Mystic Swordsman to clear out the set monster, and then Kaiku can banish the grave. And with just the MST set here for Ptran, this will go through. I mean, I guess you could Rhoda the call. I mean, you could MST the call, kill the Mystic Swordsman, and then the Kaiku will just kill the Dawn. So you're still getting minus either way, I guess. But that does protect your graveyard. Alright, just going to let it go through, though. Graveyard will get banished. Makes your premature burial a lot worse. So now you have no targets. So maybe you did want to keep that around. So interesting choice there. Ptran is going to draw Solemn Judgment for turn. This Mystic Swordsman not doing too much. Your premature is dead. You do have Rhoda for Blade Knight, though. You could set your back row. Just have it be nice and big and beat over this Kaiku. Gonna lead out with MST as well, trying to snipe that Solemn, and does. Pretty nice. So now you can go set up for this Rhoda for Blade Knight play. That's what we'll see. Set the Solemn and the Premature. Beat over the Kaiku. Threaten to beat over the Mystic Swordsman later on. Yep, makes sense to me. And now you recuperated some of that lost card advantage with upside if you can get over this Mystic Swordsman. End phase, El Duelista will pop one of the back row, hitting the Solemn Judgment, which you're pretty happy about. But now you're staring down this Blade Knight, which is threatening to wipe out your board. So big turn here for El Duelista to see if they can deal with the BK. Top deck Blade Knight is a good way to deal with it, though. We're just going to trade Blade Knights, I guess. Yeah, once again, Ptran, no real back row to do anything. And this Mystic Swordsman will stick around to punch in for 900, I guess. And that's exactly what we'll see. Of course, Ptran can go premature for the Blade Knight here to get back into the same exact scenario. Top deck's Blade Knight, though. Okay, so it doesn't actually need the premature burial. if they just want to go for the board control. Yeah, and I mean this has been a pretty classic warrior matchup so far, where both players are just fighting for board domination, right? Just whoever has the bigger monster is going to be a happy camper. And you can see the value from these resurrection cards, your prematures and your call the haunteds, especially later in the game after both players have traded a lot of resources. It's essentially an extra copy of the best monster that you've played so far that game. Which, you know, when you're in these near top deck scenarios, Blade Knight 2000 attack is pretty strong. So we'll see if Ptran just chooses to go for normal Blade Knight get in. Yeah, definitely a solid option. Gonna go normal Blade Knight. We are gonna go premature for the second Blade Knight as well. I think recognizing that they're pretty far behind on the life point side of things, so wanting to try and equalize that while they have the upper hand on the board, because who knows how long they'll have that, you know what I mean? This is Warrior Mirror, it can flip back at any time. So let's try and pressure or press in some advantage ASAP while you're in the Ascendancy. Makes sense to me. Now Mirror Force would be pretty brutal, haven't seen that yet. But it looks like there is not one here ready to go, and Blade Knights will get in for some big damage. And life points essentially equalized here. So looking decent here for Ptran. 2 Blade Knights on the board. El Duelista almost top decking. Pretty solid spot here for our Team Canada representative. El Duelista, okay, had a bluff set premature. So Blade Knight here, the option, just going to go crash Blade Knights again. So Ptran rewarded for summoning both, because they'll be, you know, up significant tempo by having the other one still sticking around. Yep, Blade Knights crash. Keep the one equipped to the premature alive, because it's easier to deal with, of course. And then we'll set a back row. Okay. Ptran draws Exiled Force. Alright. So 2 monsters that aren't doing too much. Mystic Swordsman is just kind of a brick at this point. So you could just summon it, beat in for 29, drop the opponent to 1,000. Seems pretty good. It does play into Torrential, it does play into Mirror Force, but you don't really care too much about your Mystic Swordsman, so you might as well push the extra damage, I guess. And that's what we'll see. And how much do we really want to give our opponent credit for top deck Mirror Force, right? And you get a pass with lethal on board. So yeah, Ptran doing a really good job noticing when they had board control and just committing everything that they can there to deal as much damage before Vive Cristo can kind of stabilize. Okay, Heavy Storm, bluff set, gonna deal with the Blade Knight. Interestingly, holding it last turn, could have just dealt with the Blade Knight, but trying to get a little bit more value there. Mystic Swordsman will stick around, and El Duelista does not have a monster to get over it. It's not lethal, though. Okay, Rhoda here for Ptran. You could just go normal Exiled, attack for game. You could Rhoda for something. Gonna go for the Rhoda play. Rhoda into the 3rd copy of Blade Knight. Sure, why not? And then attack for lethal. And that's going to run into the top deck Mirror Force from El Duelista. Okay. Yeah, so finding the big defensive card, but El Duelista is still sticking around with just 1,000 life points. Exiled in hand here for Ptran does represent lethal. Although, you know, hard for it to get in for some damage unless El Duelista just completely bricks with their draw, which is always possible. Gonna draw a back row, set it, pass. Okay. Ptran finds Tribe. Pick your poison, which one you want to go attack for lethal with. We're going to go for the Exiled. El Duelista has the Solemn Judgment, though. Okay, so having some defensive cards, struggling to really draw monsters this game, it feels like. Which can happen here as a warrior player. You do run a pretty monster-light deck, of course, which can be a double-edged sword in these top deck scenarios. Sometimes you just don't find your gas. But finding some stuff to at least keep him in it. Going to drop all the way down to 500 life points, but will live to see another turn. Just drawing another back row, though. Yeah, really struggling to find any actual monsters. Ptran finds a dead delinquent duo. We'll see if this tribe is enough for game. Get in for 16. And that's game 1. All right, Ptran takes it down. Pretty classic warrior mirror, like I said. Both players slamming their monsters, slamming their back row into each other. And when the dust settled, Ptran had the life point advantage and just kind of top deck better down the stretch. The only one that was able to find actual monsters. So we're going to go to game 2 here. El Duelista will be able to go first. We'll see what the idea is going to be from them. Gonna go normal summon Zambira, set a back row pass. Okay, very common card in the Warrior Mirror. As mentioned, you're always fighting for board control, so just having a big beater, even if it can't attack directly, is fine because it's just gonna positively trade with your opponent's monsters and just be a real menace. P-Train here draws Call of the Haunted for turn. So no monsters here. Would probably just fire off this Graceful Charity to try and find a normal summon so you can do something. But they're just going to go... Okay, they're going to go set Torrential Pass. And so the idea here, I guess, is that if El Duelista actually wants to pressure the life points, so Byra can't attack directly. So El Duelista is naturally going to want to summon a second monster so that this Torrential will probably get value here. And then if you're going to be committing to this Torrential play, you don't really need your normal summon for turn. So you can hold on to this Graceful until for later. Seems fine to me. El Duelista is going to go summon Blade Knight, walk right into this Torrential. And that's a nice little +1 for P-Tran, so it ends up working out. Alright, so we're going to draw Gravekeeper's Spy for turn, which is a normal summon, so you could also hold Graceful again here. The one thing that is a little bit awkward, though, is Warrior, especially when you have Solemn Judgment in your hand, you want to do the Warrior thing, right? Where you play your monster and then you set your hand, Solemn protects you from heavy, and you play around a bunch of stuff and have a bunch of back row. However, if you just go set your hand here, all of your cards are out of your hand, and that makes your Graceful Charity a lot worse. So I feel like you're really incentivized to set your hand just as the Warrior player. So maybe even though you already have your normal summon, you just fire off the Graceful now, filter out for some better back row, maybe a better normal summon or something, and then you can just go set your hand and not have to worry about not having a good Graceful down the line. Maybe. See what P-Tran chooses to do. It's just going to go T-set pass, Spy with the Saku behind it. And yeah, I mean, look, this is what I mentioned. This is kind of awkward, right? Because you're just kind of holding this Graceful because you don't want to set everything because you want stuff to discard. See what El Duelista can do here. The Spy resolving could also be quite nice if it does. Graceful Charity here played from El Duelista, so just slamming theirs in contrast to P-Trans. Gonna discard Kaiku and Tribe. Okay, so loading up that monster. Or loading up the graveyard with monsters in contrast to last game where they couldn't find one to save their duel. We're going to go Rhoda here as well. Could go for a Mystic Swordsman. Could go for Exiled Force. Going to go for the safer option. Yeah, now that you know your opponent's on Warriors and Battle Traps are in the mix, better to just go for the safer Exiled option rather than get punished like we saw last game with Mystic Swordsman running into a Sakuretsu armor. So Exiled is going to pop the Spy, and then El Duelista will set another back row and pass. Alright. P-Tran here, similar to last turn, draws a normal summon. So at this point, if you're committed to holding this Graceful, you might as well just summon DD Warrior Lady attack. Seems fine to me. Yeah, 1500 to the Dome is going to connect, so no Saku's here for El Duelista. And this Graceful will stick around. Sure. El Duelista finds Pod of Greed. Okay, ooh, if this snipes the Graceful, that's going to be pretty unfortunate. Let's see what it goes. What it grabs. It's one of the two Solemns, okay? And I feel like you probably discard the... So Graceful plus Call is obviously kind of a nice combo because you can go pitch some stuff and then bring it back with the Call of the Haunted. But that is kind of slow at this point in time because it's not like your call is already set. And you're not guaranteed to draw anything you actually want to revive with your Graceful Charity later on. Whereas right now, Call has no real target in the grave. And then this DD Warrior Lady is unlikely to hit the grave just because of her effect. So it's probably just discard Call here. And that's what we'll see. Makes sense. El Duelista, well-timed duo, of course. We're going to go Premature Burial, and every option can deal with this DD Warrior Lady. So interested to see what they pick. I'm going to go for the Kaiku. So trying to banish, get the Dark out of the grave, I guess, in case there's BLS shenanigans afoot. And we're going to go normal summon the Blade Knight. Okay. Yeah. So this is a big board here for El Duelista. Sakuretsu armor here for Ptran. Interesting choice of what to Saku, though, when these attacks come through. Because Sakuing the Kaiku protects your graveyard. But Blade Knight is a lot stronger generally in the mirror because it's just a 2000 beater, whereas 1800 is a lot easier to get over. So I kind of, even though it doesn't protect your grave, I kind of like just Sakuing the Blade Knight, letting the Kaiku attack go through, getting your Dark out. So it's not like you have BLS anyway. See what Ptran chooses to do. I'm going to Saku the Kaiku, so choosing to protect the graveyard. Ooh, but we got 7 Tools of the Bandit out of El Duelista, so it's going to be a moot point which one you decide to Saku. And both bad things are going to happen. Kaiku's going to banish the grave, DD Warrior Lady is going to trade with it, and then Blade Knight stands alone and can get in for 2k. So yeah, El Duelista, well-timed duo, and then finds an opportunity to get nice and aggressive here. With some upside, banishing the Dark out of grave as well. Now Ptran draws the Spy for a turn. Maybe, I mean, yeah, and now you got duoed. Now you still don't have really good cards to discard with the Graceful. Spy, though, you can just set in the way of this Blade Knight, so maybe that's just the play. Set Spy. Gonna set the Solemn as well. Might be something you want to keep in hand for this Graceful. But I guess El Duelista does have Chaos Live, so maybe you're just kind of forced to set the Solemn here. Either way, Spy is going to do a good job of walling out, I have to imagine. El Duelista is going to set a back row, keep the Blade Knight at 2k, attack into the Spy, and it will resolve. And Ptran does have a nice little wall here, and now you can afford to like spend some time to draw up and make this Graceful better. It's kind of nice. Draw Saku for turn, probably just set it pass. We're going to fire off the Graceful now. Interesting. I mean, I guess you don't have a normal summon for turn, so you want to dig for one. That seems fine. And you do hit one, so that's nice. You hit the breaker. You hit a Nobleman of Crossout, which is in post side against Warrior. It's a little bit interesting. I mean, Warrior does play flips, but I feel like there are better options for this. Ring is pretty nice with your opponent at lower life than you. So the discards are definitely the knock. And I feel like probably the Saku, because you kind of have your spies to protect you from attacks anyway. And then Breaker can like pop a back row, and you have Ring to protect it. And if you ring something, Breaker and your spies can maybe pressure for lethal. So yeah, knock hits the grave, of course. And the Saku, yeah, makes sense. And now Breaker can hit the board. Evolution is just going to ring on summon, though. Okay, so both players take 16. Duelista is going to drop down to 2100, though, and now this ring is looking pretty juicy. With 1700 more life than your opponent, you can kind of wall out behind your spies for a while as well, till you find a good option for this. So looking pretty good here for Ptran. This ring could definitely be what seals the game for them. So it's just going to be set ring pass, makes sense. El Duelista sets a monster of their own. As we mentioned, Warrior can play flips of their own. There's some juicy stuff in Grave to grab, like Premature, Rhoda, Graceful. But Ptran has really no outs for it at this point in time. I'm going to draw Jar of Greed. It's probably just set Jar pass, right? Nothing you really care about. I mean, if the set is like Faith or something, there's not even really value in like poking over it. Because you'd actually rather El Duelista at this point flip a monster, and then because it's an attack position, maybe you can deal some damage and set up for lethal with the ring. So I think it's just continue to stall out, set the Jar pass. Okay, we're gonna set the Jar, and then we're gonna turn both spies into attack position. And we're going to attack the set monster. Okay. So I feel like setting Jar in main phase 1 makes me think that Ptran is trying to play around a morphing Jar here. But kind of like I said before, El Duelista, I mean, I guess anything goes once both players draw 5 cards, but El Duelista flipping a morphing Jar and giving you an option to beat over and then set up for a ring seems fine. And now you're turning both of your spies into attack position against a warrior deck with a Blade Knight already on the field. And you have no real. I mean, I guess Ring is protection from the Blade Knight, but if they have another threat, it's pretty easy to get over them. And I'm just not entirely sure what this is trying to do. Unless we're just trying to. This is just a soul read that your opponent has Morphing Jar set, and you really, really want to flip it on your turn. And you're worried about Sakuretsu as well, right? Because like if you really wanted to put the Morphing Jar, you could just poke with one spy and keep the other in defense. But you're attacking with both, and so now they're both going to be sitting ducks, right? Okay. Eldus has the Mirror Force as well, too. Okay. And now I guess you kind of have to solemn this, but then you just have two sitting duck spies with just a ring to protect them, and you just solemn so your ring is a lot worse because now like it'll kill both of you probably. Yeah, so I don't know what this double spy attack was supposed to do. Maybe this is one of those let me know in the comments, guys, what I'm missing sort of things. Um but yeah, I feel like this is like the ultimate punish here for El Duelista. Either your spies die and you're a sitting duck, or you solemn this and your path to game is really bad, and your spies are still sitting ducks. Like, yeah, I don't know. But are gonna solemn it. You're down to less life than your opponent, though. Oh, and you take damage from the DD Warrior Lady attack. And now Ring is more likely to kill you than your opponent. And yeah, now Blade Knight isn't even a ring target. You have no way to protect yourself from both your spies dying, really. Looking, yeah, looking like kind of an unforced error there, I feel like, for Ptran. And El Duelista is now in a really, really dominant spot. Still some back row that are unknown to play through, but you gotta be really happy with that turn if you're El Duelista. Draws for turn. Okay, Snatch is just gonna be enough for game, right? Yeah, and unless you want to play around Mirror Force, this is just GG, right? Yeah, so Spies trade, Blade Knight gets in for 2k. No viable ring targets. Yeah, you can't even ring the Spy because then the Blade Knight kills you. That's going to be game two. In a position that Ptran actually looked to be pretty solid in. Had the Spy wall set up, had the ring just waiting for a good opportunity to go for game. But then got a little antsy, I guess, and gave El Duelista an opening, and they took it all the way to the bank with Snatch Seal, you know, one of the most explosive cards in the format. Even if El Duelista didn't have Snatch, though, it was going to be a really, really good turn for them just to clear out all those spies. So we are going to go to game three. Of course, Ptran will be able to go first this game. And the hand is a little bit interesting. No Trinity here, unlike game one. Double Blade Knight, a dead BLS, and then Jar of Greed, Snatch Steal, Dust Tornado. So you don't really have any solid turn one plays here, because you can't set enough to make your Blade Knight to 2k. And you don't really want to set Snatch Steal anyway. So is it just like set Dust, set Jar, pass? I mean, you could just normal the Blade Knight, and if it dies to something, you at least have like Snatch Steal on the crackback, maybe, and it'll probably get a Light Engrave for you. So yeah, kind of interesting. Okay, Ptran. Okay, we're gonna go set the Blade Knight. Yeah, Warrior post side. Like, remember, game one, the Don's Luke set was a little bit suspicious because there are definitely gonna be Nox in El Duelista's deck. But in game three, unlikely for there to be Nox in El Duelista's deck, and so just randomly setting monsters is probably fine. Like, El Duelista kind of has to respect these back row and think that there's probably like a battle trap or something. You also have to be worried that this is like Gravekeeper Spy or something like that as well. So we know it's just a Blade Knight, but it could coax El Duelista into doing something beneficial for Ptran, I think. We're going to go Rhoda here for El Duelista, and they're going to go Rhoda for... Yeah, so they're going to... Setting the Blade Knight here, bait it out, basically made El Duelista kind of waste a Rhoda going for Exiled in a situation where it's kind of suboptimal. So yeah, this did work out here nicely for P-Tran. I like this set Blade Knight. Because even if like if El Duelista for some reason does not respect the back row or anything, just goes normal summon attack. Like I said, you at least get a light engrave, and you have Snatch Seal plus Dust Tornado to set up for it, such that you can like make some stuff happen on the crackback. But now Exile is just going to come down, kill the Blade Knight. You still get the light engrave, but you trade 1 for 1. Honestly, a pretty solid result. Pretty negative tempo here for El Duelista. They had to use a Rhoda, had to use their normal summon. They have no monsters on board. And you're probably pretty happy with this if you're P-Tran. End phase, you're just going to Dust Tornado a random back row. Hit the Saku, sure. Good to know it's gone. Draw Spy for turn. Okay, that's actually pretty nice. So once again here in game 2, or on turn 2, you're in a situation where you can't get enough out of the hand to make this Blade Knight big. So I kind of just like set Spy. And then I feel like this is actually a good situation to hold the Jar of Greed. Like, yeah, you could draw into like Heavy or like Trinity, which is always good, I guess. But it's not like you need a normal summon. A lot of the other like miscellaneous back row isn't going to be super amazing right now. So I feel like this is actually a decent turn to hold the jog, since you have the normal summon and all that jazz. Also keeps a card out of the hand in case you ever want to make this Blade Knight big. Yeah, set Spy Pass there. I think totally fine. Elise is going to set a monster of their own and pass turn. All right. I mean, Faith is the thing. There are spells engrave. We draw we draw a Mystical Space Typhoon for turn. Now, I feel like you probably lead out with the Jog here. That's my guess. Nothing really super exciting at the moment you'd want to go with. And like flipping Spy against Warrior is a little bit scary sometimes, because then they're in like attack position. I guess like Tribe comes down or something. Okay, yeah, wait. So they are going to draw into Jing Zhen Hu, which is a nice card in the matchup. So now maybe it's just like set MST, set Jing. I mean, Spy's not really getting over anything important, so you can probably just keep it set. And yeah, so you can probably just set MST, set Jing, and then like MST can pop a back row and Jing can lock down the other two, something like that. Okay, P-Turn's just going to set the Jing, and it's just going to get Dust Tornadoed, though. Okay, so holding this MST for a turn, I guess, as a way to, like, protect BLS from Snatch or something down the line, maybe? Not sure. El Duelista draws for a turn. Okay, so now, notably, El Duelista knows that P-Turn didn't flip up this set monster. I mean, it's unlikely to be Faith because there's no spells engrave. So the read is probably just that it's Spy. That's my guess. Or like a DD Warrior Lady or something that you're getting tricky with, but that probably attacked the turn that P-Tran set it. So Spy is probably the read if you're El Duelista. I'm just going to set a monster pass, not getting too frisky there. Notably didn't flip their set either. I mean, there is a Faith target engrave, but could be a Spy of their own, right? Probably a little bit more likely. P-Tran draws a Dust Shoot for turn, which, kind of like the Nox last game, it's a little bit interesting to see post side against Warrior, and it's definitely dead right now, and I don't see a world where it will be live for a while. So keeping in a lot of the anti-turbo stuff is a little bit interesting. Yeah, once again, if you're not flipping Spy last turn, I feel like there's no real reason to do it right now. Read as your opponent has a Spy set probably anyway, so like you're not really going to make any progress by flipping. So it's probably just set MST, set Dust Shoot pass, I think. Just going to set the Dust Shoot. Okay. So P-Tran really holding on to this MST in hand. I guess, I mean, so Spy is your Dark. If it ever hits the grave, you have BLS ready to go. And maybe you want MST to either set up for that play or protect from Snatch Steal, maybe. So being very intentional with the MST usage here, not interested in just setting it to try and snipe something random, which I guess is fine in these like more stalled out game states where like randomly trading 1 for 1 isn't going to do anything for you because you're not in a position to actually capitalize on the loss of back row. So if you're going to just be playing Warrior and holding MST for something, this seems like a decent position to be doing it in. when the board is kind of stalemated. You could go summon Blade Knight attack, but then you're setting a bunch of back row, and it might make heavy look a little scary. And the read is spy most likely anyway, so it's not like Blade Knight's going to do too much. Duelista here, just going to set a back row pass. And yeah, I think at this point, both players are just reading the opponent has spy set, and we're just waiting to try and break that stalemate. Kind of like a Chaos Turbo game, right? But somehow in a Warrior Mirror. All right, draw Saku for turn. Once again, we can just go set MST, set Saku. Just going to set the Saku. Okay, so yeah, I guess at this point we're committing to just holding the MST to use it at an intentional point in time. I need to remember that. But Saku is definitely something you just want to set. It's going to get sniped by MST in the end phase, so not the end of the world. Duelista is going to go Rhoda for Ninja Grandmaster. Okay, yeah, so if the read is correctly, as we know, that ptran has Spy, Ninja Grandmaster is a very good card to deal with that. And they're going to go set a monster. Okay, so Rhoda-ing for Ninja Grandmaster, but not actually deploying it, at least as a normal summon. It's a little bit interesting. I guess maybe playing around Torrential it could be a thing. All right, ptran here draws Exiled for turn. Okay. So yeah, definitely lots of good options for this Exiled. You're not really playing into anything by summoning it. It's probably just Exiled, pop a monster pass. Hitting the Ninja Grandmaster. Okay. So Duelista choosing to set it to play around something. But now your one easy way to make progress against these spies is gone. Thanks to this Exiled Force. So nice win there for ptran, I think, to keep kind of the status quo going. And now they're going to set the MST. Okay. I feel like if you're going to hold it for that long, like what changed between then and now that makes us want to go for this MST play? I don't know. It's kind of interesting. Just a little bit logically inconsistent, I think, with the rest of the actions, but like setting MST to try and snipe the backer is never bad, right? All right, Duelista. Gonna go set another monster pass. So really just, yeah, I guess hasn't found anything to get over the suspected spy. Neither really has ptran. Gonna draw another Trap Dust Shoot, so multiple copies, both dead. So I guess it's just set Dust Shoot pass. We're gonna go, okay, interesting. All right, so I guess ptran recognizing that drawing a bunch of dead cards, so if Duelista starts actually like playing stuff, you probably are going to be behind because you have two absolute bricks, whereas I assume Duelista is not playing these super dead cards in the Warrior Mirror. So now recognizing that even if you haven't seen the heavy yet, it's fine to kind of play into it, because like who cares if your Dust Shoots die anyway. The value of these Dust Shoots right now is A, as a bluff, and B, just to get cards out of your hand to make your Blade Knight bigger. Sure. And yeah, just trying to push the issue, I guess, right? Like I said, you have a bunch of bricks, and so you kind of, the onus is on you to just like make something happen, sort of. And so I guess going for this full power Blade Knight play is one way to do that. Gonna attack a set monster, and it just is gonna be a Kaiku that dies. Okay, so that gets light dark. So I guess if Duelista had actual had a battle trap, you maybe don't use it there to get light dark engrave. But letting a Kaiku die for free is a little bit interesting. Especially when this, yeah. Yeah, Duelista just really setting a bunch of stuff. I mean, I guess it kind of dies to the Blade Knight anyway, even if it is in attack position. Yeah. Either way, Blade Knight, this like kind of desperate-ish Blade Knight play here from ptran is actually getting value, because Duelista either is unwilling or unable to protect this Kaiku. So nice little plus there for ptran. Okay, then we're going to go press the issue even further. Main phase 2, we're going to go flip Spy. Summon the second one in defense, of course. But yeah, I guess ptran is all in on this offense now. Which is interesting, is if, once again, the read is that the opponent has a spy set. Like, we're still not doing anything to get over that. But maybe just like I said, feels like needs to make a move because of all these bricks that they're drawing. Duelista finds a breaker for turn. Okay, lots of targets. A lot of unchainables at the time being, and can get over a spy, so breaker's not too bad. Although if Duelista was unable to protect the Kaiku last turn, seems unlikely that they can protect the Kaiku from the Blade Knight as well, so breaker might not be long for this world. Right. Gonna pop one of the dead dust shoots, sure. And then kill the spy. Nothing P-Tran can do about this, right? So breaker getting some solid value here, but pretty likely to die in this crackback, especially without any new back row. Saku drawn for a turn for P-Tran. Also notably, Spy Hitting the Grave does turn Chaos on for P-Tran, so this BLS that's been sitting in hand all game suddenly just got a lot better. But I would have to assume Duelista would be doing that intentionally, like knowing that they have an out towards the BLS is my guess. But we'll see. P-Tran doesn't have to do it this turn anyway. I mean, I guess you have the MST to protect it. So it's actually not a bad time to summon the BLS, I feel like. Gonna go set the Saku, make the Blade Knight bigger though. Go ahead, beat over the Breaker, kind of as expected. That happens again, so I guess, yeah, Duelista just doesn't have any battle traps, is the read now. Okay. So Blade Knight is slowly but surely actually making progress here. I guess because Duelista is happy summoning stuff that dies into the Blade Knight. Which is a little bit interesting, but like I said, P-Tran is getting some work done with this Blade Knight. Duelista finds a Blade Knight of their own. Gonna attempt to trade them, I would have to guess. But we know that P-Tran has a Saku, so gonna do that. Keep it on the board. Sure. And now P-Tran does Pot of Greed. That is quite good. Alright. So definitely gonna fire that one off. Gonna go MST first. Okay, I guess the idea being that Duelista did set several back row at one point, so there is a non-zero chance there's a Solemn there, and you definitely want this pot to resolve and this BLS to resolve, so firing off the MST definitely seems fine to me. It's a 7 tools. Okay. So Duelista opted not to 7 tools the Saku, letting P-Tran keep this Blade Knight around, which I guess is consistent with one of the sets being a spy, because the Blade Knight's not really doing too much. But now this pot, I mean, if the pot gets solemn, you have BLS, right? So let's fire off the pot. Drawn to Mobius and a Solemn. So this is quite strong, because now you have Solemn, Snatch, Mobius, BLS, which is pretty good. So you could just like set Solemn and then set up for a really big Mobius plus BLS turn next time and try and make some stuff happen with this Blade Knight. Doesn't seem too bad. Okay, no, P-Tran's going for broke. We're gonna go tribute some for the Mobius, pop the back row, and try and, I presume, pave the way for this BLS on this turn. Alright, so P-Tran able to resolve this Pot of Greed, putting them in a really solid position, getting them some absolute juggernauts in the hand. And deciding that now is the turn to go for it. And then I guess at the end of the day, you have the Solemn to back up your BLS after it being summoned. So why wait? Yeah, I guess why wait a turn? If you know you can clear out the back row with this Mobius, regardless of what it is, yeah, now you just have BLS Solemn into an empty back row, and that's probably just enough to win, right? Oh, and you pop a Mirror Force too, which means that Duelista, I think, has held this Mirror Force for several turns while this Blade Knight was whittling them away. Let it kill the Kaiku, let it kill the Breaker, and now the only value you're getting is letting it die to this Mobius. And now the BLS can come down, probably, yet. I mean, Knight Assailant isn't a threat. You can just kill both, probably. Unless you're worried about, like, DD Warrior Lady. That's a pretty likely set, I guess. So yeah, we're going to go banish one. Okay, it's DD Assailant. Similar reason for why you would want to banish there. Wasn't expecting that, but it actually is a pretty common card for the Warrior Mirror. Yeah, so smartly banishing one of the monsters with the BLS. The read, I think, still is that the other set is Spy, probably. So you want to attack with the Mobius here. And it's going to be a Magician of Faith, which is really interesting. But I guess El Duelista just never really had any great targets. A couple Rotas and an MST. Gonna grab the MST, which doesn't really do too much. Blade Knight will get in for 2,000. And I mean, this is at this point a pretty unassailable position for Ptran, I feel like. You're up a million cards. I mean, your Dust Shoot is dead, but you have BLS, Mobius, Blade Knight backed up by Solemn, and a Snatch in case Eldelis is able to, like, finagle their way into a BLS of their own. So yeah, Ptran finding their angle of attack, hitting this Pot of Greed, knowing that they could whittle through the back row, and then just summoning this very, very formidable board. And Eldelista, yeah, looks to be in a pretty rough spot here. Not too much to potentially do here. MST grabbed off the Magician Faith is gonna kill the Trap Dust Shoot. That's pretty. So both of these dead Dust Shoots were actually ended up being bait to protect the other back row. So Ptran did get some value out of them, right? One got traded for MST, one got traded for the Breaker Pop. So probably best case scenario for these Trap Dust Shoots. In the Warrior Mirror post side, never since turn 1 was there ever an opportunity to use these on El Duelista, which is why you don't see these kept in the mirror. But hey, sometimes you get value just for being a bluff, which happened here. Okay, El Duelista is gonna go Premature Burial. Best target, I guess, is the Exile just to kill the BLS. Ptran could Solemn this, but you don't really need to. It's not like you need the BLS to stick around for you to win. Exile will pop there, sure. Blade Knight will come down, trade with the Blade Knight. Once again, no need to Solemn that. That's fine. And now your Mobius stands alone as a 2-turn clock, backed up by Solemn Snatch. Pretty good. Draw DD Warrior Lady for turn as well. Get a nice other safe threat on the board. You get a passive lethal on the board, backed up by Solemn. I don't think there's a single card El Duelista can draw here that's going to allow them to stay in this game. It's going to be a back row, and Ptran shows the Solemn, ready to attack in for game. And there you have it. Ptran, in their return to the league after sitting out a season, is going to take it down 2-1 against one of Season 6's top players in El Duelista. A good old Warrior Mirror. You don't see that every day in War League. It is, of course, one of the more popular decks, but generally, you know, we're going to see a little bit of chaos on one side or the other. But yeah, cool. There you have it. Ptran, 2-1, Warrior Mirror. Solid dub here for Team Canada. Gotta be really happy about that one in their first week back in the league. As always, continue to tune into this channel if you are interested in some more GOAT format War League content. This is just week 1 coverage. We've got, you know, a dozen more weeks of the regular season plus the playoffs coming through. Hope you guys enjoyed this one. Let me know what you think about these players, about this duel, down in the comments below, and I will catch you all next time.